right, Chris, we are back for week 4. I was actually a little worried I was going to miss this because I was doing some yard work and I had the worst poison ivy on my eyes. Like on Monday and Tuesday, I could not open my eyeballs like at all. And they still look a little rough. Can you tell? That's one of the reasons I'm wearing glasses.
It's pretty funny that that's the same time that recreational marijuana became legal in Delaware, that your eyes were so swollen shut. Poison ivy, I bet. You know what I mean?
No, it was poison ivy. It was either poison ivy or I'm allergic to work, which
There
is
you go. Could
possible
be.
too. How's everything going at the flower farm this week?
We had some temporary summer help, so we had some young folks out there with us. So it's kind of brought a little bit of life to the farm again. A little boost here in the dog days of August when you feel the burnout, but it's been good. Some of these workers have been helping for a couple weeks now, so I think one of the cool things is they actually finally started to talk a little bit. So I was kind of concerned this whole generation they weren't actually able to communicate. Quiet, very quiet up front. They actually work pretty good. Like they're hard workers. I was kind of wondering how it was going to go. But today, the one really opened up and he started talking about conspiracy theories. He talked about the moon landing and not thinking it was real. He asked if I thought aliens were real. And we went into ghosts and ghost hunting, So it was like the whole range of conversations.
Let me crack my beer open before we
Oh,
get.
yeah. I know. Well, I was getting I'm talking too much. Here we go.
So I mean, you're always getting like the good ones. You're going to Vermont. You're going to Colorado. Mine is a Dewey Beach though, but Dewey Beach is very good. Delaware has a lot of good breweries.
No
but Dewey
way,
Beach is one.
dude. Nice. Dewey Beer is by far the best brewery in Delaware. If somebody else wants to challenge that, send us free samples and we'll taste them for them. But so far, they're rocking it. I was gonna give a spiel that I picked this one out because although I'm excited for fall and leaf peeping season, this is one of their Thrills series. So I finally walked away from the IPAs. This is one of their fruity beers, but it's called suntan lotion, which I think is amazing. But
Doesn't sound appetizing.
it doesn't, but the flavor's like pineapple and coconut, and it totally messes with your head because you're like, oh, it's like suntan. So it's pretty cool pour. So cheers to some Dewey beer.
I wish I got one like that because mine doesn't come all the way up, which is
Oh,
kind of a
yeah.
bummer.
Grab a second can. I just was curious. So my follow-up questions too is like finally getting to talk to these next generations. Like, is that what all your friends think? And I was like, how do you think the dinosaurs died? Or went extinct? They believe in meteors still? Or they said we don't even learn about it in school anymore. I was like, so you don't learn about dinosaurs? They're like, no. I said, so do you think dinosaurs were around while there was man, like humans around? They're like, yeah, I think they lived together at the same time. And I was like, all right, I mean, we're getting a little bit closer to like creation theory here, maybe, versus like evolution. Maybe that's not a bad thing, but I was surprised to hear that they really don't care about dinosaurs anymore besides Jurassic Park. So,
And that only has one good movie. The rest of them are terrible, I think. But anywho, and tonight I'm going to see Nate Bargatze. You know who he is? He's a comedian. Yeah, we're going to the Wells Fargo Center to see him tonight. So that's what we've got going
Nice.
on.
Nice. There you
But
go.
I was having trouble picking two writers because I really wanted to get. I didn't want to do all male authors, so I've been really on purpose picking male authors, and then next week doing female authors, and next week doing male authors. And I was really having because I'm limited by who's following me on Twitter, so I was having a hard time finding two ladies on Twitter. So I picked two women, and I don't know about you. I mean, there's plenty of female writers I like, but I do, if I'm being honest with myself, I do tend to read male authors more. And that's probably just because female authors, a lot of them write in that like romance genre, which obviously that's not really for me. Because did you know that romance is the top genre by far?
I
Like
love
by
this
far.
introduction. I love this introduction to what I'm about to say. I feel like you somehow read my mind. So this year, my Audible, this is my library of books I listen to, and talking about not reading female authors. I started listening to Mel Robbins, The Let Them Theory. I know it's not a novel, but still, female author. Then Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer, same author, yours truly. Shelby Van Pelt, The Remarkable Bright Creatures. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I started The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. Then Say You'll Remember Me, Emily Henry's Beach Read, and then The Last Thing You Told Me by Laura Dave. So it's like
So
all
you're
female.
picking up whatever Ashley's leaving around the house.
Pretty much, I'm listening to it, and it's actually been pretty entertaining. and it has a it's not Hallmark, but it has a Hallmarky vibe, the romance kind of thing. It's like quick, easy. There's conflict. Some of it's pretty solid. That's my spiel. So I don't know. I feel like this year's been loaded with female authors for me, but maybe it's all tucked away in that one genre for the most part.
So I was having a hard time picking two because I wanted two women and I wanted two women that went together. And then I was just kind of getting behind the eight ball. And I was just like, I just picked the two women that were the top choices. I didn't vet them at all.
Okay.
So these are two completely different genres. You've got one that's sort of a fantasy, and one is more of a historical fiction. Do you want to talk about the seven tiers first? Is that cool? Or do you have like, or I'll let you steer a little bit. I feel like I'm always steering the ship.
No, I think you must list them the same way you say let's jump into them. Because when you send them to me, I usually click on the first one, and it seems like you're always picking that one to talk about. So I started seven tiers first. I think totally okay jumping into that. I think it has one of the best book covers of all the books we've read. I really like the artwork. So throwing it back to some different episodes, and we talked about the book cover, the artwork maybe being the decision maker. It even had a map inside when you open it, which is apparently needed for good fiction, fantasy. You need a map of the world you're in. That's what they
It
say.
looks really It looked really cool and intricate. I was having a hard time because it's like in the shape of a seashell or
Yeah.
something. I was having a hard time really understanding what it was trying to tell me. But I mean, it looked good. I'm sure if I got into the book more, I'd be like, "Where are we at?" And I'd probably go back and reference the map, and I'd probably figure it out. But it looked like someone spent a lot of time on it, and it looked
Yeah.
really really good. So then we get into the prologue. Do you want to tell me what you think happened in the but I could give you my interpretation of what I think happened in the prologue, but
Um,
and I'll be honest, I only read half of the prologue, and then I jumped into chapter 1 because I was like, "This is gonna wear me out if I have to read all this. I wanna at least read chapter a little bit chapter 1 to get the because it was a long prologue. So do you wanna kinda give me what you think is going on in that prologue?
I didn't look to see that both authors were female, okay? But I did feel when I was reading this prologue that I was listening to like a teenage girl talk to me about a bunch of random thoughts. It's where my head went. I don't even have a teenage daughter yet. She's still younger, but this prepped me for what I would believe that would be like in the future. It felt very rambling, trying to dump a bunch of information. I think it was supposed to sound conversational and inviting, and like, here's a bunch of characters I'm throwing out there so I can pull from them later, is what I was thinking. I was lost. I stopped reading. I stopped
I
it.
did too. I could only make it halfway through the prologue. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just meandering. I
Yeah.
mean, just it was rough. I mean, because like you said, it was trying to sound conversational, but it was hard. And then she's jumping, but aside from that, she's jumping around in all these heads and stuff. It's like is she like a magical sprite? It's just she's trying to give you a lot of information, but she's doing it in a way that's just very hard to follow along.
I
I mean,
agreed. And I guess one of the things is, and you've done this in one of your books, is this concept of like throwing you right into something as a reader. And I guess there's probably we always talk about the hook, and there's probably a successful way to throw somebody into something, into a scene. But I think there's also this idea: is this a series of books? Is it an individual book? Am I going to have to like remember what I'm being thrown into throughout the whole series? Am I going to want to go back and figure that out later? Is it too complicated for the reader to hook them? And so now you've thrown into something, but we had the other book from a couple episodes ago where we open up and we're like killing off our fellow warriors to make it
right.
to the fortress. That actually seems less confusing now after reading this book.
That's a walk in the park compared to
Yeah,
this.
yeah, and I think we had to enter like the mind of like at least the teenage feminine, perhaps, of what's going on here. But I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe that's feeling the young adult category. I don't know if that book is for young adults. I felt that way reading it too in the prologue. But as I said, this is the first one that I didn't keep going out of interest. I actually stopped and was like moving on to the other book.
I I
Maybe
I had the same experience. I was like, I cannot finish this prologue. I cannot do it. As it was long and rambling. But I will say this. I'll give it some credit. I jumped to chapter 1 and it reads completely differently. So chapter 1 actually starts way more traditionally. It's a girl, it's a human girl, and she's swimming in the ocean and she gets caught by a riptide. It's way more easy to follow along. And then I'm assuming they're going to introduce some magical stuff. But I didn't read all of chapter 1. I just got into it like, okay, there is something here that
yeah.
is readable. because
Well,
the prologue. Oh man.
now I'm frustrated I didn't jump ahead like you because I wanna give all these a chance. So to say, like, this is the first one that I was like, "Nope, I'm done," out of all the books that we've done in book battle, I feel bad saying that, especially if chapter 1's good, but I'm gonna defend myself. I read every part of a book. So I go from cover, I read who it's to, who, what their remarks are, like, "To my wife and children," like, whatever it is. I go through prologue, sure. You wanna give me an epilogue at the end and all the final writer's notes, I'm gonna read through it and check it out. So if you're throwing me a prologue like that, I'm gonna read it because you put it there. So I'm
That
count
would be the right way to start. Yeah.
yeah, I'm counting that as where I'm supposed to be at. So I don't know. But then you say there's a prologue, but there's even that little intro statement thing, that little piece of like fairy tale or something right in the beginning. Yeah,
Yeah. Let me pull it up. No, I don't.
so it goes map, table of contents, and then I have this dude here, this page.
Yeah, I'm looking at that too.
So that was like something is that felt connected to the story, but yet we didn't even get here yet. I didn't even know this was the prologue. Tell you the truth, I thought I was jumping into chapter 1. So I thought the little piece was like intro, and then we were in chapter 1. I went through to see how many more pages there were, and I said I'm not being able to finish this. So that's where I left it, unfortunately.
Here's what I'll say though. I think, because we're going to segue into the next one, because I think it's actually closer than it should be, because the next one, it's historical fiction. We'll start with the cover. The cover is bad. I'm not going to bash it too much for that. I'll get into it. But so that one starts in, and this has much easier to read than the other one. It's like, just this old man. I guess he's in his 90s. He's going to visit his other friend who's dying, who's slightly younger than him, and then it jumps back in time to the 30s and he's meeting it. It's very boring. I mean, if you want to, like, in my opinion, do you want to give some thoughts on I read the first two chapters of The Button Boy, which is our next book. The Button Boy by, we want to get Barbara Peterson, and this is a trilogy. And I think I read somewhere that it's for ages like 14 to 18. I mean, if you can get a 14 to 18-year-old to read this book, God bless you, because I I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's an interesting piece of tidbit there because it started off as a slower read. So we talk about one that's very rambling, and then here's this other side which is clear. It's clear in a way what's going on. We're introduced to characters. We're thrown into the story. It's an older gentleman going to visit a slightly younger but still older friend apparently, and has family members even helping him get there to visit. And so the character builds that, and it's kind of like what's the hook there? I didn't feel like there was a hook, that's for sure. So there was no hook to me. I thought it was well written in the sense of clarity after compared to the other book, since we're going head to head here. There was things that I felt brought some nostalgia to the story that for me, I had a grandfather that was in a wheelchair, and I actually took him and his friends were a riot. They were all chemists together, and they used to have these like classic coworker parties back in the day when people worked at the same place for their whole career. And they would do wine tastings, they would do all these things. So I actually took them to one of their wine tastings when one of their friends was like even 80s plus. And I brought him there, wheelchair, all that, helped him get out and enjoy the scene. So I was thinking about that as I was reading it. And so I gave it some extra points for feeling that. But man, you talk about like a young reader trying to get through that. I mean, I don't know. That would have been really challenging if I was thinking about myself trying to read that 14 to 18.
Yeah.
So
And this is a trilogy. This is going to be a trilogy of books. I don't know. But I mean, again, we're going head to head here. And I think most weeks, I mean, like, I think back to that Bigfoot book. The Bigfoot book would have beaten both of these books, I
yeah.
think. I
I
think
mean, just because there's so much going on, and that was a clear thing too. So we say now talk about I say clarity, like being able to follow what you're being thrown into. I mean, like, okay, it's a dream sequence. We were bashing how funny it was that the dream sequence included Bigfoot creature driving a car before killing this person or what gutting or whatever.
whatever.
But like
Yeah.
now, I'm like, at least I knew what was kind of going on. So these books felt like a totally different shift than what we've been reading. And I know you said like thrown out there. I didn't realize the second book would have been a female author by the writing style. Actually, I thought it was probably like an old, boring guy writing about his old, his memoirs into fiction or something like that. Think that if I kept reading it, I would probably enjoy the story. But I think that it'd be a hard, unless it picks up, it'd be a hard book to keep me interested. I think I would feel like maybe enjoying it, but slow, like just an easier read. Nothing that's like exciting and pulling you.
Two chapters or just one chapter
Just the
of
one.
the book?
Just the
one. Yeah,
one.
well,
I did get through. I did get through the full chapter. I just didn't
oh, me
continue.
too. It was shorter, easier to
Yeah.
get through. Now, in chapter 2, they kind of go back to the 30s. Him as a younger guy. But it didn't have a lot. But it didn't feel like it had a lot of flavor of like the 1930s. But maybe as I keep reading, I'll get more of that. Being as I read chapter 1, of the other book, I feel like I could keep reading that if I had to, but I would skip the rest of that prologue because it's boring. But I and confusing. But honestly, I'll let you. I mean, I could read either one of these. I think they're both pretty much a tie. Tie goes to Chris.
I want to ask you one final thing. If I'm the tiebreaker, were you disappointed that this Seven Tears book, uh, in either the summary or somewhere in the like the online summary or the beginning of the book said there are no mermaids in this book? Were you disappointed to read that? As
But
somebody that's yeah, go ahead. Were you mad about that?
actually did. I mean, it's funny you say that because I picked up the book and I did not know that she said there were no mermaids. I picked it up because I thought there were mermaids. Because
Maybe
as
there are, but I think somewhere it's either on the review or the summary page or something in the book. It was like there are no mermaids in this book, and so I was kind of like, all right, well, I don't know. Somebody might be mad about this. So
obviously, I have a soft spot for mermaids. They were the subject of my first book. Available
yeah,
now on Amazon. Buy
that's
now.
up. Yeah, it's the perfect timing to actually buy that book. I think about August. I think about getting that book in time for the fall and working your way into like Halloween season. It's a good read for that. No, I'm ready to I'm ready to on that note, I'm ready to give the tiebreaker because I don't really think there was a tiebreaker here. I didn't finish the Tears book here. It brought tears to my reading ability, and I wish I had jumped to chapter 1. I'd probably be a little
It
softer
does
about
get better in chapter 1. It
so
does.
I'm
It
being
does.
hard on it with the prologue, but for what we're doing and the quick reviews, it's like nope. Buttons. I guess buttons all the way. This is a hard week, and cheers to both of them for their creativity and exploring the art of writing. But I'm not looking forward to having to read either of these two books during our finale, if that's what we're doing here.
No, so I mean, but who knows? I think I actually have more confidence that well, anyway, we made the decision. It's going to be Button Boy, and it will have a chance to redeem itself. Maybe something crazy will happen in chapter 3, man. Maybe there'll be like some gangsters or some ghosts.
I shared my reading list over the summer. All I have to do is like flip it to some notebook stuff and pick up speed, and it's like romance of the farmer's market girl selling apples and the button factory boy. And I mean, I'm probably sucked in, man. I got like, I'm not trying to act hard. I mean, I know I'm bashing like the Seven Tiers here, but like maybe the button book, maybe we got something there. I don't know. Or maybe it's a whole different, maybe there's ghosts, like you said. Maybe they're like, I don't know.
So, cheers to the Button Boy.
Cheers to the button boy.
Congratulations.
Congrats. A win's a win. A win is a win.
Thanks for watching. Next week, we're going back to basics with werewolves and witches. If you'd like to play along, like and subscribe and read the opening pages of The Famine Witch by Stephen Black and Blood Red Moon by Mark Allen.